What if everything you know about fame and who gets to have it is actually wrong? This is the conversation that Hollywood hopes you'll never hear. Today, we're talking to Whitney Uland, podcast host and celebrity life coach who's shaking up Hollywood's power structure. From waiting for her big break to building her own spotlight to founding How to Be Famous, she is amplifying voices that Hollywood ignores. And she's here to show you, along with thousands of other creators and entrepreneurs, how to be magnetic in a world obsessed with visibility.
I always say fame is just the resource of having people's attention because it is just a resource of power ultimately. And I would argue that second to money, it's the world's most powerful resource.
You believe anyone could be famous?
I do. Just like how everyone has a different number when you ask like what is rich, right? Or like what is wealthy, we all kind of have different numbers of fame as well. And I really do believe whatever level of fame you see for yourself and you want for yourself, that is something you are capable of creating. For me, I'm like, I love that like traditional Hollywood fame, like famous. And there are other people that I work with who are like, I want the level of fame where I can make an impact in my community.
People want more opportunity, they want more business, and yet to be seen means you're vulnerable. So it's this weird paradox of, in order to be more successful and have more opportunity, you need to be more visible, but then you're more vulnerable. How do you navigate that?
Really, the work of this is being willing to be misunderstood. I always say with fame, it's new levels, new devils. When you're creating something as a creative, as an entrepreneur, you're building a world that literally doesn't exist yet. So we can't really expect people who don't see the world to believe in it yet.
We're so excited to be on with you today, Whitney. We are going to dive right in, Clever Crew, to talking about how to be famous. And if you just cringed and felt a little bit uncomfortable right now, great. We love that for you. Stick with us. Promise it's going to be worth it. So, Whitney, you've described yourself as someone who stopped waiting to be picked and decided to become the person they couldn't help but say yes to. I had to read that exactly because it's just so good. How do you get to the point where you decide, like, I'm not going to wait to be picked. I'm going to make sure that they see me?
You know, it's interesting. I would love to say, like, I mean, obviously I say like I decided that. I also do kind of feel like I got backed into a corner where that was the only option, right? And where it was like, you know, I was not getting the opportunities that I wanted. And I guess like the success wasn't, the doors were not being opened to me that I wanted and would have needed to in order to get to where I wanted to go. And so, yeah, I think it kind of, you know, I've had multiple, I feel like I've lived so many different lifetimes. And in every single one of them, it's kind of come down to me being like, okay, no, if this is what I want, then I have to go all in and make sure that I am the person that can't be ignored and become the version of me who yeah, people want to bet on. But the pattern has kind of been like just hitting a lot of walls over and over again and then being like, okay, like this is kind of the only option.
Is that something that you feel like is inevitable when you are a successful person, that you consistently feel like you're hitting walls?
I think so. I mean, it's kind of like my boyfriend always says, like, when you're working out, he's an athlete, and you know, if you're actually doing it right, then you're always going to feel like you're failing, right? Because it's like you always kind of feel like you're weak if you're strengthening the weights or adding on to the weights. And I think that's the same with success. And I'm probably harder on myself than I need to be, but I also just have a really high ambition, and I'm at a place now that I was dreaming of a year ago, and now I'm ready for the next thing. Right. And
Yep.
I think I love creativity. I love growth. I love, like all of my career kind of feels like a game to me. Sometimes it's like a masochistic game that like, I'm like, why am I playing
Right.
this game again? But yeah, I do think that it's, in order to grow and in order to progress it, you are going to kind of feel like you're failing a lot along the way.
Let's give our audience a little bit of backstory, because Kat and I know a little bit about you. I've been listening to your podcast for a long time now. And we know where you started, but the audience might not yet. Can you give them, the
TLDR.
yeah, there you go.
Yeah. So I was raised in small town Texas, in a Mormon home, and was kind of discouraged from pursuing a career. I was taught that you can't be a good mom and have a career. And that was kind of the lens through which I looked at the world. And yet I also had this very really amazing supportive dad who was like, you need to, like, you're really smart, you're really creative, like you need to find something you love or you're going to go crazy. And I always kind of knew that I was meant to make a massive impact in the world. As a kid, I like imagined myself doing press circuits and doing interviews, doing podcasts like this, even though we didn't know what podcasts were, at the time.
Right.
But I didn't know how to get there. And so I followed kind of the breadcrumbs. I was a performer. And so I went down the musical theater route and got my BFA in musical theater. And it was in a really competitive program. And I can even look back now and be like, oh yeah, I had the talent. But when I moved to New York City, I wasn't getting the opportunities that I wanted. And it was a lot of slam doors and not even slam. It's like, I didn't even get in the room for them to tell me no, kind of thing. Like the way that the entertainment industry is set up, you're like waking up at 4 a.m, going downtown, signing up to hopefully get an audition. And then they can decide at 10 a.m, no, we're just not going to see you today. A lot of rejection, a lot of failure. And ultimately, and then about 6 months into my career, my dad, who was my biggest fan, my biggest cheerleader, passed away. And it sent me on this healing and self-discovery journey, and realizing like he had been my number one cheerleader. And when he died, he was the one who believed in me, not really. I realized I didn't really have that belief for myself. And so kind of went on that path to building that. And once I did, that's when the opportunities started coming in my acting and in my performing. I started making my own work and producing and traveling the world, winning awards at festivals. And I got to write on a movie starring Lucy Hale and work on this show on HBO. And then we all know that the pandemic kind of like rocked things up in the entertainment industry. And so I kicked off my coaching business, and I am teaching people basically the skills that I am certified now as a life coach, but it's a combination of the skills that I've learned in entertainment and as an actor to be magnetic, with mindfulness skills, with like human regulation practices based in CBT and somatic healing and all of that. So kind of combined it all into my coaching business, where I help people become famous and create the visibility that they know that they're meant for.
So much goodness. No, we're introverts, so we love a good long story where we can just soak it up. And I love how you were very clear about, realizing that you didn't have the belief in yourself, and that was where you needed to start. And because a lot of our clever crew, they work in real estate, they're service professionals, they have their own businesses, they're entrepreneurial, and they want the framework, they want the tactic, they want the tool, the magic pill. But often we're our biggest enemies and advocates. And so can you just share a little bit about what it was like to do that belief work, and, where you even started? Because it can feel so fuzzy for people, right?
It does feel really fuzzy. It feels really nebulous. And I also just want to say, this is why I love y'all's podcast, is like, I am also very introverted. And I like, even my family is like, sorry, what? Like, they're like, I don't understand. You just like had a post have 100,000 people viewing it, or, we reach about 3.5 million people every single month. And yeah, I'm such an introvert. And, I think in a lot of ways that is kind of what led me to then work on self-belief and self actualization in a lot of ways, because I didn't like, I see so many people in entertainment who are just so willing to like knock down doors and go take what's theirs and whatever. And that's not a natural thing for me. And so honestly, as an introvert, for me, building the belief in myself and kind of focusing on mindset it almost feels like an introvert hack, where you can, like, instead of having to go out and like go chase people, they end up coming to you. And so you don't have like, I don't know.
Yes.
So I feel like I kind of got off topic from your question, but I think so. I initially had found the life coach school, which is Brooke Castillo's. I think they're currently kind of on a sabbatical with the business, but she's the first coach that I hired, and I kind of I really resonated with the idea that I could actually have control over my career, over my destiny. Yet being someone who is very introverted, being someone who didn't have a lot of doors open for me, it was like, wait a second, like this feels like power. And I think the way that in coaching we kind of break things down is that all of the results in our life come from, the actions that we take or the actions that we don't take. But that our actions are guided by our feelings, right? When we're feeling motivated, we take action. When we're feeling insecure, we don't. And that even before what is like the precursor to our feelings are our thoughts, right? Our beliefs, the stories that we're telling ourselves every day. And that when we're having these thoughts of I don't fit in or I won't be chosen or whatever, that then it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. And I think that really is where exactly, yeah, and
Thoughts
that's really
become
where
things.
our power lies as humans, is to be able to choose the way that we're going to view the world and create from there. So I think that the life coach school gave me a really tangible framework, and then I've obviously built my own intellectual property since then.
That's awesome. Can you tell us how you describe fame
Yeah.
or define
Yeah.
fame
So
now?
I always say fame is just the resource of having people's attention, and it's a neutral resource. It's a tool. It's just like, let's say a kitchen knife, you can use it to chop onions or to hurt someone, right? It's the same with fame. It's like going to be used in the hands of whoever wields it. And that's really where, my mission is to help good-hearted artists, creatives, influencers, entrepreneurs create the resource of fame, because it is just a resource of power ultimately. And I would argue that second to money, it's the world's most powerful resource. And it's also it's leverage. It's once you have this tool, you can leverage it into money, you can leverage it into opportunities, you can leverage it into access. And it really all starts with your willingness to be seen. So I say, like, fame is the resource of having people's attention, and you create it by being willing to be seen, basically.
With that being said, you believe anyone could be famous.
I do. Yeah. And I believe everyone can create the level of fame that they are meant for. I'm a very spiritual person, and someone told me once that being famous is like having a soul contract with millions of people. And I really do believe that there are so many of us who were put on this earth to make a massive impact, and to, I don't know if this was y'all's experience, but in my work, I see so many people that are like, yeah, I always knew I was supposed to like be doing interviews or be doing whatever. And again, this was before podcasting. This was before that really was available. And I really believe that our desires are our dharma, and they lead us to what we're supposed to do in this world. That said, fame is different. There's a different number that everyone has in mind when they think of famous, right? And
Mm-hmm.
for me, I'm like, I love that like traditional Hollywood fame, like famous. And there are other people that I work with who are like, I want the level of fame where I can make an impact in my community. And for them, that looks like, maybe it's 10,000 followers, maybe it's a solid podcast that is consistently bringing them in clients. Whatever that looks like for them, everyone kind of has their own, just like how everyone has a different number when you ask like what is rich, right? Or like what is wealthy.
Yep.
We all kind of have different numbers of fame as well. And I really do believe whatever number or whatever level of fame you see for yourself and you want for yourself, that is something you are capable of creating. And it really just comes down to getting out of your own way and doing the work to feel safe being seen to create that.
I love to get very tactical with our clever crew. I want them to feel like, oh my gosh, I listened to this episode and I did this thing that they told me to do, and it worked. And now I'm going to like deep dive in all of Whitney's podcast episodes, right? So,
or hopefully they don't need to, right? After this.
But what is one thing that someone can do starting today that can help them build that magnetic energy that you often describe when it comes to, kind of shifting your energy?
Yeah. So I'm going to give just a little context before, if that's okay. So what Candace is alluding to is I teach people essentially how to have the it factor, which is what I call celebrity energy. And it's when we're in, essentially, like we always think about the celebrity energy or the it factor as being some elusive thing. And people always say, oh, you either have it or you don't. But if you look back in history, there are so many stories. There's the stories of Marilyn Monroe, of Judy Garland, of Tom Hanks, like of every major celebrity literally flipping a switch of they were not on and then they were on. And all of a sudden, right? And it's like, and people have witnessed this transformation happen and been like, I don't know what that is. And when I heard that, this kind of the origin, I guess, of all of this is that I had a talent manager who told me I just didn't have the it factor. And that must be why I wasn't booking roles. And at first I was like, oh my God, so I'm just screwed, right? Like, so I guess I just can't have it. But then hearing this, I was like, okay, well, if it can be turned on and off, then maybe that's a skill. And so that's kind of what set me into the deep dive of figuring this out. And ultimately, this celebrity energy is when you are in a hyper present state where you're unafraid of being seen for who you authentically are. I like to use the example, actors all know that you never want to do a scene with a dog or a baby because they will what's called pull focus. So you can be doing all of your best work and people will just want to watch the dog or the baby, because when we're in this hyper present state, we're magnetic. It's like you can't help but want to watch this person. And this can be, I live in Los Angeles. I don't know a lot of, being raised Mormon, I didn't consume a lot of pop culture. So I don't know who a lot of celebrities are, but I always know that someone is someone based on their energy and based on whether or not they're existing in this state. You can just tell, but it is something that we all have access to. And it is just this presence. And the trick is to be able to be in this presence, be in this hyper presence while being witnessed. So in terms of like tactical things, I mean, this sounds like overly simplified, but oftentimes the very first thing that the first like transformation is that people need to just get really clear on admitting that they want to be famous, or that it is okay, that it's not like, stop judging themselves.
Yes. It's neutral, people. It's a tool.
Exactly. That's it. And
love it.
And maybe stop hating on people who are famous. It's like, if you want to be rich, you can't like hate on rich people, right?
100%.
So it's like the same idea.
Yeah. And that's where, again, anything quote unquote tactical for me is always going to be mindset advice. And that comes back to our awareness, right? So noticing, where am I judging people who are famous? Like, am I saying, oh, they must be full of themselves, they must be conceited, they must be X, Y, and Z? And also, like, we all kind of have people that are famous that we don't have those same thoughts about, right? Like, maybe it's like, you love Rachel Ray and like you don't think that there's anything wrong with her for being famous, but you hate Reese Witherspoon or like something like that, right? Where we kind of just pick certain people that we do or don't like. And so I think it's important and powerful to get clear on what triggers you about certain people, and get clear on like, okay, what are my judgments about this person? Because to your point, it's not like anything that we're afraid of or that we think is bad, we're not going to want to become. And so even just getting clear about that can make a big difference.
Whitney, one thing that has come up in my work, and I'm sure, Candace, it's come up in yours too, where people want more opportunity, they want more business, they want more, ability to grow. And yet to be seen means you're vulnerable. So it's this weird paradox of, in order to be more successful in heteronormativity, you need to be more visible, but then you're more vulnerable. How do you navigate that in client conversations?
Yes. So, and it's such a human thing. And I always say with fame, it's new levels, new devils, and it really comes down to like, there's always going to be if you're for your next level, your next edge, there's going to be an increased vulnerability, and there's going to be and so then your brain is going to resist it. But the process is all the same. So no matter where you're at, it's about making peace and like getting somatically comfortable with that vulnerability. And so they're like, but I think for the first piece of that is, noticing what your brain is afraid of, right, with this, and ultimately like cognitively kind of deciding, because the truth is it is really uncomfortable to be seen in a vulnerable way. It's also uncomfortable to not have your dreams to know that you're hiding from them. And so I think for one, sometimes it's just about deciding which kind of discomfort you would prefer. And then secondly is the creating the somatic safety. So I always break down all of this work into, it really comes down to two pieces. So the first is going to be rewiring your brain. So that's outsmarting those instincts that are telling you it's not safe, right? Our brains, we've evolved from cavemen and cave women, and we survived as a human species based off of being able to fit in with our community. And so it makes a lot of sense that we're going to be afraid of putting ourselves out there, because that's essentially leaving the cave. That's going off, and you, in order to be any kind of, whether it's an entrepreneur, a creator, an artist, you are essentially a thought leader. You are creating something that doesn't exist in the world. And so your brain is going to inherently think that that is scary and vulnerable. So I think first, sometimes it's like, okay, let's get really clear. What am I actually afraid of? Like, who am I afraid is going to be upset by this? Whose opinions am I worried about? What is my brain trying to protect me from by keeping me small, keeping me exact, and also keeping me exactly where I am, right? Because I've even seen this week. I had this major, we had a major malfunction, we will say, in my business. Where we're growing, and I need to bring in people to kind of replace me as a business owner so that I can keep doing the coaching and the content. And it's freaking me out. Like, my nervous system is like tweaking out, and I made a mistake, and we had brought on someone, and I basically just didn't onboard them and was like, go figure this out. Like, you can do this. And they sent out some bad emails to my list. We got 1,300 unsubscribers in one day. And like all of these emails, people were offended, whatever. So there is this part of my brain that's like, I just failed in front of 30,000 people, 35,000 people, however many people are on my email list.
Right.
And that is a threat to my business. So it's not necessarily like gaslight yourself and be like, there are no ramifications when I say, rewire your brain and outsmart that. But we do just have to kind of like neutralize it and say like, okay, what is my brain trying to protect me from? And then the second piece comes down to hacking your nervous system. And that's really about creating that somatic safety within yourself, so that you can continue taking action that's aligned with your desired outcome. One of the things about fame that's really hard is that, when you're like, if you were on a date with someone, they can say all the right things, but sometimes they just kind of give you the ick. They have this like energetic body odor that's kind of repelling. And sometimes with
energetic body odor.
Yeah. Well, and it's
that
like,
for sure.
With regular body odor, we don't always smell that on ourselves, but like other people smell it and they're like, it's a little creepy. That's the same thing when you have a dysregulated nervous system, when you're showing up being seen, is that you can be saying the exact same script even. And if your energetic body odor is repelling people, they're gonna be really turned off by it. And so that ends up coming back to a lot of breath work, emotional processing. It's all the things we don't want to do, the meditating, the
slowing down, getting off the apps, down, all of that.
Yeah.
One thing that comes up over and over again for our Clever Crew is the idea that people who already know you are watching, like people from the small town in Texas where you grew up, the people who you were you were auditioning with, those people are going to see you and they're going to say, who the hell does Whitney think she is? She's not even famous. In the beginning, I'm sure those types of conversations were happening, right? How I know it's happening. It's happened to me. It's happened to Kat. Like, all these things have come up. Like, where do you get the qualifications? Who are you to do XYZ? Who are you to create this course? Who are you to have this podcast, to have this platform? How do you navigate those conversations and the relationships?
So I'll be honest, they don't happen in real life as much as we think they do. Like, as much as we're afraid that they're going to.
They don't happen to your face.
They don't happen to your face. Exactly.
Yeah, right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so I do think that, that's something we have to just keep in mind, is like, But let's be clear, I remember every single one of those conversations and like they have like haunted me, right?
We have forgiven, we do not
Right,
forget.
exactly.
We're moving forward, but like the receipts are
The
there.
receipts are there. And for me, it's interesting because I finally come back around. Like it's come enough full circle that now people who were judging or hating or whatever
Haters, yeah.
hired me, asked to pick my brain to do what I did, told me that they really admire what I'm doing, like are trying to get in on what I'm doing.
Always.
And so I think a big part of it is just remembering that vision. And that was actually something that I really did sit with a lot in meditation, is like, they just don't understand. Like, and really the work of this is being willing to be misunderstood. And like, of course it's hard by strangers, but it's way harder to be misunderstood by your family, by your friends, by people in your real life. But that's a muscle and that's a skill. And I think having compassion for, when you're creating something as a creative, as an entrepreneur, you're building a world that literally doesn't exist yet. So we can't really expect people who don't see the world to believe in it yet as much as we want to. And I think, there's like, if you've got a partner who is like, I don't get it, but like, I believe in you, or you've got a parent who's like, those are the people, it's like, hang on to them for dear life while you're building. But it really, I feel like fame comes down to deepening your relationship with yourself and betting on yourself. And like almost to a sense of like hyper independence. And I think this is kind of the issue that I'm struggling with right now. And I've seen this in clients, but it's interesting being on this side of it, where in order to create fame, it does almost create this like hyper independence where you kind of just have to be so sold on what you're doing and on what you're building that you're like, and again, this kind of comes back to the very first question. For me, in a lot of ways, I feel like I was kind of backed into this where, I didn't get into this too much, but as my business was growing, my marriage ended very unexpectedly, and I had just become a single mom, and my all of a sudden, after a year of maternity leave and no tax returns and moving across the country, I kind of just had to figure it out. And so for me, it kind of became this tunnel vision of like, this is like, I can't afford to care what people think about this. I have to be because this has to work. But then the next echelon of that is trusting other people to step into that vision and to continue like guiding them, but also letting them add to the vision, not just being like giving them marching orders.
Yes, because you've been so hyper independent for the last few years that it feels like that's the thing that's leading to your success. And if you let go of that, what could possibly happen? But the reality of it is, letting go of that in a strategic way is going to allow you to go further faster.
And it's challenging, but I think it's also, now I guess what I'm navigating is I have to remember, oh, now people actually do see the world that I built, so they're playing in the world that I built. Whereas before I was like, no, like I had a friend and client, Maddie Webb, and I remember she said this to me once, and it always stuck with me. She's like, when she became famous, she's like, it's like I had felt like a ghost, and then suddenly everyone could see me. And it was like, oh, no, I've been here all along.
I just got chills. Yeah.
I know. No,
Wow.
she's the best. But that really is kind of how it feels, where you're like, I think I'm still kind of constantly being like, wait, you see this too? Or like, now it's times that like I doubt myself, and my team is like, no, we're not doing that. Like, we're not indulging in that. Like, we're going to continue on this path. And so, but I think when you're starting out, that muscle is so necessary, because you do have to hold the vision and hold the belief, and no one else can do that for you.
I think I read somewhere, maybe it was on a reel, where it was talking about how every entrepreneur, successful, sustainable entrepreneur they know, is absolutely obsessed with what they do. And sometimes people don't always understand that obsession. Sometimes they're labeled the black sheep. And now I wear that like title, like being the black sheep, like, where are my black sheeps at? Like, let's find more of you, and we can, navigate it together, because it can be isolating when you are starting out, right?
It can be really isolating. Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's why, spaces like this podcast are so great because it is, I think if we were to actually even look at the breakdown of the world, probably there are fewer black sheeps in that are doing that. And you do kind of have to do it alone at first. And that can feel really hard and isolating. But then you do get to the other side where there's a team supporting you and also, and like co-building that. And I think that's where, that's the dream. That's the magic. And I will say a lot of creatives try to get to that place before they've actually built out the vision. And I think it can be a way of bypassing discomfort to try and bring a team on too early to execute a vision that you haven't formulated yet. And so I think it is a little bit of a dance, and not that there's a right or wrong answer, but in terms of being a founder, being that black sheep, it's like, okay, when do I trust to continue down with my vision? When do I bring people on? Because usually the inclination that you'll have is the opposite of what you actually need to do in that moment. Like I wanted to bring on people way too early. That was my inclination and that wasn't the move. Whereas now I want to do things myself and that's not the move either.
Where does social media intersect with fame? Or how do those things go together in what you teach?
So, yeah, I think that it's famous, famous, famous fame. So kind of like how there's a kind of dumb stigma against new money, and it's like a little gauche to have new money versus old money. It's the same with fame, and like with I think that people in the traditional maybe Hollywood caste system um, love to say, oh, that's not real fame, that's internet fame. But again, fame is fame and attention is attention. And I think it's such an amazing equalizer because it really proves that anyone can create attention. You don't have to be greenlit. You don't have to have gatekeepers say yes to you in order to make a massive impact, to make a massive difference. You get to be the author of your own story and of your own. I've had experiences this year where like the actual like traditional Hollywood press dragged me, and I'm pretty sure my videos got more views than that one did. Like,
Yeah.
and I was able to be like, okay, well, this is like they said this, and this is my
Mhm.
truth about it. And I just feel so
Girl,
grateful
thanks for
for the
that,
Free
for
energy.
the
press.
opportunity to
Yeah.
even respond to that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Press is bad for business, right? But I can't imagine. I think there's such a history of abuse in Hollywood. And I think a lot of that is because the talent didn't have their own voice. They had the voice manufactured through a system that was not designed to protect them, but was there to protect a
Mhm.
bottom line at any cost. And so I just think the internet's
It
amazing. I
is.
love
And
it.
when we
Us
hear
too.
that negative perspective on it or that hate on it, so to speak, I always ask myself, who benefits from believing this? And it certainly does not benefit us individual creators, entrepreneurs. Democratizing the ability to have access to fame is not a threat to any of us here, anybody listening to this podcast, but it's a threat to the old systems that maybe are not quite up to date anymore, right?
Well, it's also a threat to people who aren't ready to take
There we
accountability
go.
for their results.
Mhm.
Because if you're an entrepreneur or creator and you refuse to get on board with this massive opportunity, then you have an excuse. You can say, oh, that's not, like, you can just hide behind that's not real or valid or that's
Mhm.
cringe or whatever, and that's just going to keep you. And then if you have to wait on gatekeepers, guess what? Like, I work in Hollywood, the gatekeepers are only going to come when you're already demanding attention from your own voice. And so if you do want that traditional Hollywood fame or whatever, this is actually the pathway to get there. And I think it's triggering for people when they're not ready to do that work and ready to put themselves out there. And so often instead they just make fun of it or don't participate in it or whatever.
So, Whitney, if our clever crew is listening right now and they're like, oh my gosh, she's speaking directly to me, I know that we basically made this episode for me. If they're saying that and they want more of learning how to have that it factor, how can they work with you?
Yeah, so I have this program that it's like my pride and joy. It's called the Self-Made Celebrity. It's a 6-month coaching and mentorship program. It's a hybrid program, so you'll get the course materials for exactly the nitty-gritty of how to actually do this, and then you'll also get 6 months of coaching with me and my team. So this is really where you integrate the teachings. A big part of the work of feeling safe, being seen is that somatic safety that can only come in a group and in a community of people who also are unafraid to take this leap to admit that they want to be famous. So it's I'm obsessed with this program. Like we just actually released a new version of the course materials. It's the same process that I've been coaching people on since 2020, but it's all brand new, and the results and the results are so fun. It's like you scroll through and people are like, just hit 100K, just like got my first brand deal, just signed $15,000 client, whatever it is. But also just the people in there. Like I always, a tarot reader told me once, for what it's worth, that yes, that or maybe this was like in my birth chart or something, my astrology, that
You're speaking cat's language.
I also want to know your sun sign as well. Yeah, I love using astrology to understand people. So
Okay, great.
in.
So
Yes,
I
we
am
love
a
this.
Pisces sun, a Virgo rising, and an Aries moon. Kind of a weird combo, but yeah, but does kind of make sense the more you get to know me. But whichever one is like where your luck is, do you know what I'm talking about? It's like,
Fortuna. Yes.
So
I do.
mine is in
Yep.
business and relationships, and like kind of specifically business relationships. And I really do like, I attract the coolest people. I mean, you guys, like, I really do feel like I've had very good luck in business, and that is in clients and colleagues. So my community is reflective of that as well. So I just have the coolest people.
It's everything. Speaking of community, we have a pretty awesome community called the Clever Crew, and they write in every episode with a question to ask our guest. And so Kat is going to read you a question. This is our Not Nice Advice segment where we ask our guests to shoot it straight. The Clever Crew is ready.
Okay.
All right. So, Whitney, this is from Afraid of My Own Potential. So they're writing in, they say, I've noticed this pattern in myself. The closer I get to a breakthrough or a new level that I've been working toward, the more I procrastinate and put things off. It's really frustrating because I know I can do it, but a part of me feels like I don't deserve the success that I'm chasing. Like if I actually get it, will people find out that I'm a fraud or not as good as they think? How do I break out of the cycle and actually let myself accept and step into the opportunities that keep coming my way?
Okay, first off, this is so real and such a normal human problem. This is a new level, new devil, and your brain is kicking on basically your success thermostat every time you start to outgrow, right? It's that upper limit where you're starting to succeed. So what I always advise my clients to do is get really clear on what are your specific self-sabotage tendencies. It sounds like this writer is procrastination. Mine is like wallowing in self-pity, and like it feels really real. Another one can be like, I always like, that's when I like pick fights with my boyfriend, kind of like quote unquote out of nowhere. Anything that you notice as a pattern that you're doing anytime this upper limit is coming your way, just get really clear on that so that we can kind of use it as like a red flag of like, oh, this is what's happening again. And then moving into that compassion piece for yourself of like even just that awareness of like, yeah, of course I'm procrastinating right now. It makes sense because I'm on the edge of some vulnerability. I'm like stepping into new levels. This success, it feels threatening to my nervous system. And we gotta get our shit together. Like we gotta do the things. It's kind of like the parenting yourself, where it's like you can hold compassion for the fear, but you also gotta continue moving in the direction of what you want in regardless.
I love that. Yeah. I'm the procrastinator, or I'll make things over. I don't know, Whitney, if you've seen this with your clients, or Candace, if you do this. I make things overly complex so that I have just all these steps and things that I need to do before I can actually do the thing. Candace has caught me doing that sometimes. She's like, just fucking do it.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
100%.
I will like make a plan for doing the thing, but not do the thing. Like I'll have the steps. I'll like,
So
yeah,
you
but
would
I'm
just
like,
avoid
I'm doing
it.
it because like I'm making a plan to do it. Yeah. Yeah.
You're planning. I also see a lot of like, I call these my research cats, where it's like people that are like, but I need to like listen to it. I need one more course. I need
Yes.
one more podcast. Like, I'm going to get it. And then or it's like when you're like
Yes.
tinkering around on your website and it's not actually doing the thing that makes you vulnerable.
Yeah.
I know we all do it. That's the truth
We
though.
do, you know, but look, self-awareness, like you said, Whitney, is the first step.
It's the first step. And I think also just remembering that like we're anyone who has the success or fame or career wins that you want is also human, and they also have these tendencies. So it doesn't mean you're not cut out for it. It doesn't mean you won't get to the result that you want. It just means that that's your new level, new devil.
I'm gonna write that down now. New level, new devil. And Whitney, what's the name of your podcast where our clever crew can pop in and soak up all your goodness there?
Yeah, it's called How to Be Famous with Whitney Uland.
Well, thank you, Whitney, so much for your time and your energy and the tarot readings and the insights and just all of the things. I had such a great time. I'm hoping our clever crew found it insightful and valuable. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. This was so much fun.